Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can have your attention please, our ceremony will begin shortly. Before the ceremony begins, I would like to have your cooperation on a few things. Firstly, kindly be informed that you may write down the comments of the event or questions for the panels throughout the official Facebook or YouTube UITM Cawangan Melaka. Secondly, you are most welcome to share this event with your colleagues or friends throughout the social media. Your cooperation is highly appreciated. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon. Guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen. We meet again for the second session for the afternoon session today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is a great pleasure for me to invite Professor Dr. Atiu Rahman from Bangladesh to deliver his insightful thought. This session shall be moderated by Associate Professor Dr. Saladin Abdul Rasul from UITM Cawangan, Melaka, Malaysia. Tafaddal ma'jura. Please welcome them.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a good afternoon. The Honorable Professor Dr. Atul Rahman, distinguished presenters, participants, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to be honored to become the moderator for this session, especially with a very distinguished guest this afternoon. I will read his short CV of Professor Dr. Abdul Rahman Atiu Rahman. Dr. Atiu Rahman is the Bangga Bandhu Chair Professor, University of Dhaka, and is also the Executive Committee of the Center for Advanced Research in Arts and Social Science, University of Dhaka. And he is also an honorary professor at the Department of Development Studies at the same university. So we are very happy to be with you, Prof. Atul Rahman. Okay, let me read your CV. It's a very long, but I will read a brief one. I will make a brief one. Popularly known as the Poor People's Economist and a Green Governor, he was appointed as the Governor of Bangladesh Bank by the government of Bangladesh in 2009, and he was there for 7 years. And he had a lot of contribution locally and internationally. And he has a long list of achievements, but I'm going to make it brief. He has published more than 65 books in English and Bangla, besides numerous papers in national and international journals. His book titled Peasants and Classes, which I believe was from his PhD, has been published by both Oxford University and Z Books London, and is considered a semi-classic and taught all around the world. And he has been awarded profusely both at home in Bangladesh and abroad for his seminal work and professional performances. Among his significant achievements include the Best Central Bank Governor of Asia and Pacific 2015, awarded by the Banker of the Financial Times. He, he was also the Central Bank Governor of the Year for Asia 2015, awarded by the Emerging Markets of the Euro Money. And he was also the winner of the GUSI Peace Prize International 2014, awarded by the GUSI Foundation in Manila, and also achieved Indira Gandhi Gold Plaque 2011 for his outstanding contribution towards human progress. And he has also a few other achievements. So without further ado, I pass the mic to Prof, and we give you about 1 hour to present your paper. Please.
Thank you, Professor Rasul. Very nice of you for giving this kind introduction. As you all know, we are in a very difficult situation globally because of the COVID-19. In fact, never ever in the history of mankind we have seen such a disaster. The health disaster that we are witnessing, and it has economic fallouts, and governments all around the world are finding it very difficult to cope with the finance, how to really cope with this disaster, and how to really design the recovery from this disaster. And as we can see, in a time like this, when the economy slows down and the revenue also slows down, so the central bank, most of the central banks in the world, they have come forward to with their expansionary monetary policy, and they are the ones which are really driving the economy in this manner. Bangladesh is no exception. In fact, Bangladesh started long back. I would say immediately after the global financial crisis, which started in 2007-8. The Bangladesh started responding to the crisis, and we really shifted the paradigm. Fortunately, I was the governor in 2009, and we shifted the central banking paradigm from there, and we moved on. Financial inclusion became the major theme of our central banking, and I would really like to share with you the innovations that we brought in Bangladesh to cope with the disaster, the financial crisis that we had. Now the same the innovations are becoming so useful even today when we are facing the COVID-19. The conventional approach normally is a broad-based, comprehensive development of the financial sector, but financial inclusion paradigm, prioritizes inclusion of the economy, and there is a link between financial inclusion and the sustainable development. The sustainable development concerns, as you all know, here there is a new role for the financial sector, particularly the private sector plays a very interesting role in financing sustainable development goals, and therein, financial institutions provide a range of services to the households, entrepreneurs, and public authorities. And if we really want to change that paradigm, the new parameters of the concept of sustainable development, which has been reframed. This calls for large scale mobilization and mainstreaming of the environmental and social responsible financing. So this is the new kind of finance that we really started in Bangladesh. In doing so, in fact, we had to really nudge the financial the finance beyond the short termism. uh, as you can see from the next slide, that uh, in most of the developing countries, the finances is generally short term in nature, with large presence of the state owned banks and supervisory challenges, uh, and financial system of the market then is not enough actually. And if you really want to meet the goals of the sustainable development, if you really depend only on the market, may not be enough. The markets have hands but not soul or conscience. So if you really want to prosperity for all, you got to really finance the real economy. And what we did in 2009, that we really focused on the real economy. The post Paris climate agreement, the UN agreement on the SDGs, really asked for touching the ground actually, prosperity for all and poverty for none. And for that matter, we got to really conserve the nature. So in central bank, Bangladesh central bank, where I was the governor, we really started moving green. We want and started becoming more inclusive, and that paradigm is holding, and we are finding a developmental central bank in Bangladesh. I'm sure the Malaysian central bank has also moved in the same direction. At that time, your governor JT was a good friend of mine, so we worked together and we innovated a lot of institutions around that time, and how to make the role of the central bank much more pro people, pro development. So let me share some of those experimentations that we did in Bangladesh. On the monetary policy framework, if you can see the history, in the early 70s and the 80s, the monetary policy was very rigid. It had to really directly control the rates, and the credit market was not so important. But in the 90s, we went for gradual liberalization of the rate of interest, and by the 2000s, market based interest and exchange rates became the normal. And by 2006, the monetary policy statement was introduced to really anchor the expectations, the particularly inflation expectation. By 2009, when I joined the central bank, we made financial inclusion as the major strategy to support the real economy, the agriculture, SME, women entrepreneurs. So we really touched the ground. And by 2010, we made it a point that monetary policy statements will have to be, consultative. And so we invited the former governors, the former finance ministers, the entrepreneurs, the chambers, and the bankers, so that we used to collect their opinions in formulating the monetary policy. That helped a lot. Actually, we could innovate a lot. The monetary policy mandate still remains the same. The core objectives of the Bangladesh monetary policy, like many other countries, has been the price stability while supporting output and employment. And secondly, we did institutionalize a new emphasis on the quality of monetary policy implementation. Monetary and the financial sector policies prioritized inclusive, environmentally sustainable growth, thereby fostering medium to long term macro financial stability and widening economic base. So we really focused on experimentation and implementation while being mindful of what monetary policy can and cannot do. So our innovations were experimentations, how to really experiment, how to intervene, and then we learn from the experimentations and we change that policies. So our monetary policy has been going through a lot of innovations in Bangladesh. So what we do in our monetary policy, that we wanted to link the finance with a sustainable agenda, in a sustainability agenda. So what we did, we combined short-term business fluctuation management with long-term sustainability agenda. So you are a group who does business. I'm sure if you are doing sustainable business, you got to manage the short-term business fluctuations and at the same time reach the long-term agenda of further growth. So we really then try to ingrain socially and environmentally responsible financial ethos, reflecting local context and the global challenges. And finally, we enable the bottom of the pyramid through financing sustainable entrepreneurial innovations. So it is the bottom of the pyramid which we made stronger, that made Bangladesh perform so well. Even today, after about 2 decades, Bangladesh is performing so well in terms of growth and other areas. And one of the ways that we really went beyond just setting targets in the monetary policies. So what we did, we upgraded the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure that we really started in Bangladesh pretty well. Online information and reporting, we ensured, there we also went for digital infrastructures like RTGS, Bangladesh Automatic Clearinghouse, National Payment Switch, electronic fund transfers, whatnot. We digitized the entire process, and we also introduced electronic bond market. And but what was the biggest innovation was the monetary, mobile financial service. Bangladesh mobile financial service, I'm sure many of you know the Bikash or the Rocket. These are global names, and they do almost 10,000 and 100 million bank accounts have been opened on the mobile. And even people who are working in Malaysia, they can easily make use of this mobile financial service in Bangladesh, and they can reach their beneficiaries so fast. So what we did for this, we raised awareness through guidance circulars. We also introduced financial literacy programs and stakeholder consultations to go into these new kinds of financings. And we also had prudent policy support, like improving our camels rating, where we brought in a sensitivity very well. We also used differential equity margin requirement as the prudential guidelines, and also market development agenda as much as we could. So together it became a very wholesome game. Approach was a total society approach we took in the monetary policy as well. So the main initiative that we took, hug the bottom of the pyramid. That was the main message. If you can hear me from now, we did how to hug the bottom of the pyramid. That is the lower segments of the economy, the real economy. And there you can see that we really went for agriculture, and through agriculture we reduced poverty. About 20 million 10 taka bank account. This is a small bank account of 10 taka, which is about 0.1 $2 bank accounts for the marginal people. We gave it a small accounts to the farmers, to the cleaners, to ordinary people, so that all money gets through even the subsidy, the government social protection go through those bank accounts. So that was number one initiative that we took, called tent account. We revitalized agricultural credit, increased in more than 147% in last 10 years. And agriculture has been really rejuvenated, supported agriculture, because farmers are becoming entrepreneurial, so they need support, agricultural credit, so we gave that support. Again, we have given credit to the sharecroppers, the tenant farmers. These are the small and medium farmers who are in the less developed areas, and we really provided credit to them as well. So about the institutional changes that we have brought for alternative income generating activities. We promoted small and medium enterprises, and we took the policy emphasis we gave. We created separate SME department, and through that SME department, we provided credit guideline, and we helped the banks to go for the small and medium enterprises, and we gave a number of refinance facilities to the banks so that they could really reach the in a small and medium enterprises. And over there, we made it a point that the women entrepreneurs get priority, and we really uh, 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 used a certain percentage of that money must go to the women entrepreneurs. So that was the policy stance that we took it. The women-led SMEs received about $6 billion around this time, and there was a refinance schemes we created for the cottage, medium, small, and micro, small, and medium enterprises, and about 15% of that fund had to go to the women entrepreneurs. Whatever refinance facilities we gave, we made it a point that at least 15% must go to the women first. And each bank were advised to open women entrepreneurship development fund help desk, and they got to help the women entrepreneurs to become entrepreneurs and give the money. So next emphasis we put on digital financing, the ICT for serving the unserved and the underserved. I just mentioned about you a little earlier. Digital solutions are easily available, including Uberization of the economy. When I say Uberization of the economy, when I say the omnipresent of the mobile network is an added advantage, and we enhance the outreach of the financial service providers service at the doorstep using the mobile financial services, and this has been saving time and cost for the service providers. We also created innovative initiatives like agent banking, mobile banking. I'm sure many of you are aware of this. And if we can see the figures, over 100 million mobile financial service users are now transacting 218.5 million per day. This is it's astonishing, and all this money going to the rural areas, and in the rural areas they are creating small entrepreneurs and making the economy so vibrant for Bangladesh. The growth rate has been more than 6% over the last decade, and Bangladesh is still doing very well even in the COVID. And on the agent banking, we have already about 12,000 plus agent banking outlets of 24 banks. People in rural areas are being served, and about 3.8 million accounts have been opened between September 19 to September 20, and 10 million plus accounts have been opened by the agents. These agents are as good as banks. They work for the banks. So another innovation we did, that we would push green finance and environmentally sustainable production and sustainable. We created a sustainable finance department, green banking unit, green banking guideline, green finance policy, green taxonomy, and there we gave a lot of refinance. Again, we created $50 million refinance scheme for the environment friendly brick production. We also created $200 million green transformation fund. We added another 300 million euro for doing this, and our textile industry, leather industry, jute industries are all getting green because of this small low rate of interest fund. These are all foreign exchange funds, given at 1 to 2% actually to the entrepreneurs, and they are really changing and becoming much more compliant, and they're addressing the climate change issues. So other financial inclusion innovations we did, Bangladesh has got a lot of microfinance institutes, hundreds and thousands of them. So we have allowed banks to really form linkage program, the wholesale credit given by the bank to the MFIs, and the MFIs then take the money to the rural areas. There are as many as 33 million borrowers in the rural areas who really take money from the MFIs, and Bangladesh and the banks really provides wholesale credit to them. nearly one third of the total credit really goes through this linkage programs. Again, we created another refinance scheme of 24 million for the no frill account, the 10 tech account. You remember, about $40 million has already been disbursed through those 10 taka accounts. Over 2.4 million school banking children, schools children have been allowed to open bank accounts, and they have deposited more than $200 million in their accounts. These are long-term fund, and bank can use as they like. No frill accounts for even the children, the street children. We have also created accounts for them, and the disadvantaged, many of the disadvantaged are using mobile financial services. Even the rickshaw pullers in Bangladesh regularly use mobile financial services, and they are linked to the banking service. And we have made it a point that 1% of the profit of the banks are going to the CSR, corporate social responsibilities, and unemployed. So all these innovations have really rewarding outcomes. You will be happy to know that so much has been achieved because of the innovations that the central bank really made. For example, silent revolution has taken place in the financial inclusion in Bangladesh. There has been a commercial bank branches have increased. Number of ATMs have increased around this time significantly. Uh, you can see that number of mobile money agents has increased about uh, 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 since 2013, about 327%. The number of active mobile money accounts have increased 540%. Increase in the mobile money transactions by 9 times. So these are mind-boggling figures, and that is happening in Bangladesh. And all this improvement on the lower ends of the segments of the pyramid is making the pyramid very stronger. Our macroeconomic stability is really mind-boggling, I would say. And because the macroeconomic stability, government can take a lot of bold decisions. As you can see from the figures from our peers, our growth performance has been excellent, and the volatility is very, very low. Our inflation figures are even lower now, about less than 6%, and the volatility is also very low, so we can take external shocks. Our reserve has gone up 7 times since 2009. Now it is about $45 billion. And so every macroeconomy is really getting stronger day by day, despite all the challenges, including the COVID. So, how did you cope with the corona pandemic? In our Bangladesh bank, the central bank has played a very interesting role in taking financial initiative to shield the economy. Uh, Nearly 4.4% of the GDP, stimulus package have been declared by the government, and the lot of them have been really supported by the central bank, not by the revenue as such. Industry and service sectors are getting all this credit at a low rate of interest, with a subsidy of about 5% rate of interest subsidization. Central bank is expanding its balance sheet and giving this money to industry and service, cottage and small industries, agriculture. So keep the demand up and the supply also up. So I'm not going into the numbers. The Bangladesh took really heroic moves in shielding the economy from the COVID crisis. And we have utilized mobile financial, the microfinance institutions in providing credit. This was a smart move, because always banks cannot reach the rural areas, so the mobile financial services can be the microfinance institutes can give that money. And we have created revolving fund at a low cost to give it to the farmers, households, and marginal farmers. And MFIs, the microfinance institutions, are providing that money. The poor, extreme poor, disadvantaged groups will be prioritized under this initiative. Special focus on those affected by the pandemic, and this partnership of the government and the MFIs, aided by the central bank, has been proving very, very successful in reaching them. And new programs probably will be coming in the next budget, which will be in June, to coordinate these policies. Banks will receive fund from Bangladesh Bank at 1%, and then channel it to the my MFIs at 3.5%, and the debtors get at 9%. In fact, now we are proposing that more subsidies should be given by the government, so that the borrowers can get it at only 4%. So for that matter, there will be subsidy from the revenue side as well. So, but that doesn't mean that we have achieved everything. There are challenges, and the challenges remain. One of the challenge uh, uh, is the role of the financial sector in a in materializing the stimulus package. At times, we can see that the implementation is not that big. The allocations are there, but as we have seen the latest figures, only about 70 to 75% of the stimulus package for the small entrepreneurs, for SMEs, for agriculture, have been implemented. But on the large ones, they have taken 100%. So there is an anomaly of inequality between the implementation of the stimulus package. This can happen because the banks are not so friendly with the unknown clients. So these are new clients, so for the small ones, so that is taking some. That's why we're innovating to have partnership with the microfinance institutions who know them better. Again, the government here, we have poor revenue collection because of the slowing down of the economy. So uh, our target for taking loans from the banks has gone up, and this year maybe that the budget deficit may go up to 7%. And I don't think there is not that is to be worried so much. Actually, this is the very unusual year, and we need to take unusual moves. We also need to further utilize countrywide network of the MFIs who can transfer funds to at least 30 million households immediately. So the government should be well advised to really make. I really try to do this for the with the organizations who are very well matured microfinance institutions. We provided wholesale credit for giving it to the tenant farmers, and they have done it pretty well. Stimulus are essentially bank based. The government needs to reorganize the budget to enhance spending for the poor. I think this next budget is coming. I'm sure the government will allocate more funds to the poor and those who have been affected. So what is to be done following the example set by Reserve Bank of India? Reserve Bank of India initially, started planning to shield the economy soon after the COVID-19 hit China back in January, and it has taken steps even before the government declared its financial package, and they injected money by reducing CRR and also providing SLR, reducing SLR, and as a whole, Reserve Bank of Indian steps really injected huge money. We followed the same strategy immediately after that, and we made Bangladesh Bank came forward to reduce CRR, to reduce SLR, to provide refinance, and the market is now very, very liquid, and entrepreneurs are getting funds at a low rate of interest in Bangladesh. And also, the central bank has bought about 9 to 10 billion dollars from the market, the reserve, the money which is coming from the remitters, and so we bought that money to and by buying the dollars, actually the central bank actually injecting liquidity into the market. And although the inflation is not very worrisome at nearly 6%, so I thought uh, uh, this was a smart move by the Reserve Bank of India, but Bangladesh even improved upon that policy as well. So we are almost at the later part of the presentation. So how to make the green recovery? You must have felt that this COVID has made our life very difficult, and we got to go green recovery. Why the central bank should play this important role? We in the central bank, we started this process about 12 years back when I was the governor. No, we were the first central bank to go green, to address the a climate change around that time. Now many people thought that I was a crazy governor, but now many of the academics now coming forward. Say for example, Barry Eichengreen, who is a professor of economics, University of California, Berkeley. He has written a piece in Project Syndicate on 9th February this year. New model central banks. Exactly. What I we used to do has been uh, talking about. Uh, he said central banks as regulators have tools with which to address climate change. Monetary policy has implications for issues beyond inflation and payments, including climate change and inequality. The best way forward for central bankers is to use monetary policy to target inflation while directing their regulatory powers at other pressing concerns. This is very important, because as you all know, the role of central bank is really decided whether we can remain independent or not. In most cases, if the economy fails, and if the more people become poor, the very uh, 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 the I would say the position of the government and the central bank becomes questionable. So I thought if we can become a bit more developmental in our outlook, and then we can start pushing on the uh, challenges. I think the not only the it is good for the central bank, but for the global and the local economy as well. As you all know, we are now facing double whammy of the climate change and the pandemic at this stage. And we in Bangladesh, we are spending about 8% of our budget to adapt to the climate change. And central bank, as I have shown you earlier, is providing more than a $500 million in the green finance now. And we are financing green growth also for the blue economy, which we say blue economy is the water based economy, the sea based economy. So we are providing fund to those kind of green activities. And we are, the banking institutions are helping job creation for the small entrepreneurs. That doesn't mean that we have been very successful, but at least we have opened the doors for the new kind of initiatives by the central bank. And this has proved to be a very eye opener for many of the observers. And people like Ashton Green are talking about, or the ECB president she too has been, Christian Lagarde has been talking about developmental role of the central bank. And for sustainable development, I think this is very important. And Bangladesh Bank has started its green finance initiative a decade ago, and this is the model. We wanted to be inclusive, we wanted to be socially responsible, we wanted to be environmentally sustainable, and financial service providers hold the power to prioritize environment friendly endeavors for over others. It was not easy. We had to really green the minds of the bankers, that they got to think long, they got to think real, and they got to think green. So that was That was the policies we pushed to the bankers. Thanks for the pushing of the governor. Many of the central banker, the bank CEOs and the bankers changed their minds, and they went for inclusive and the green kind of support. Thanks to their intensive interactions with the clients, they are well informed about the now ground realities, and they can inspire and encourage clients to follow other successful green entrepreneurs, the knowledge brokers. In fact, bankers are knowledge brokers. So if we can encourage them, they can really give us a lot of benefits. The pioneering role of the central bank, as we can see we have mentioned about it, but the Bangladesh experience has really been encouraging. The central bank really promoted promoted sustainable finance. These are some of the examples I am giving. Uh, uh, Bangladesh Bank provided green fund for refinancing green energy, ETPs, biogas technology at a very low cost. And also they created about 50 plus green products. You can see the green products on the right. The central bank, not many central banks in the world would go that far, but we have gone that far to create these opportunities for the small entrepreneurs to become green. And then we created $5 million plus green transformation fund to support the textile and the leather industries. Will you believe it? Out of the 10 best green factories of the world, 7 are in Bangladesh. So we created that. Now about few hundred of the garments factories are becoming green in Bangladesh. And we also encouraged state-owned company called ITCOL in intermediating refinance to procure use of renewable energy tools for the household, biogas, solar irrigation project. In fact, Bangladesh is now going pretty fast into solar home systems and also solar irrigation systems or rooftop solutions, so that we can meet the target of the climate change challenges in the coming years. Bangladesh hope to really transform all its energy into green by the 2050, but at least by about 10% in 10 years. That is the target we are setting, and the central bank has come forward. And you will be happy to know Bangladesh Bank, the central bank, has the largest solar panel on its head, and it provides the energy to the head office through the solar panels. So that has become a very interesting example. Bangladesh government has also taken a number of prudent initiative, climate resilience initiatives, prudent support from the government. So for example, Bangladesh government has national adaptation program of action, community-led climate adaptation along coastal belt. Bangladesh has planned farsightedly the 8 5-year plan, the perspective plan, the Delta plan, which is about 100-year plan, Mujib Climate Prosperity Fund. All are really coming from the budget, and central bank and the government working together for the climate prosperity initiatives in Bangladesh. Also, the government has been coordinating initiative for enhancing knowledge generation. There is a lot of stakeholders are coming. As I told you, about 8% of the fund has been initiated, earmarked for the green adaptation. We are wanting that at least 1% of the budget should be really earmarked for knowledge and the capacity building. The capital market is also coming up with the regulatory support to go for green bond and sukuk. I know Malaysia is very well known for sukuk, so we are moving in that direction as well. And Bangladesh, there is a very huge potential for really making green initiatives here in Bangladesh in the capital market as well. Fortunately, we have a leader who is very green. Our prime minister thinks green, and she thinks there is no alternative to green growth. I have worked with her very closely, so I know her mind. She is a very green-minded kind of prime minister, and as a governor, I really worked together with her, and we really pushed the agenda globally and the nationally on the green development agenda. She says in one of her articles on the 28th September last year in the Financial Times of London that climate change, pandemics, and the destruction of nature are common threats. They should unite us in working towards a common solution, a cleaner, greener, and safer world. As you know, she is the president of the Climate Vulnerable Forum of 48 countries who are at the frontiers of the climate change. And she has been pushing this climate adaptation agenda globally. And in November, there will be COP26 in Glasgow, where the UN will organize this climate summit, and she probably will be pushing this agenda on behalf of the climate vulnerable forum, that how to address the climate change. Since Bangladesh central bank has already moved into the green financing area, so she will have a lot of examples to give to the world that the central bank and the government can really go green hand in hand, so that we can have a developmental agenda which is very green, and we can have the green growth. It's not only growth, we can have green growth. So far we have explained to our how much we have done in terms of green growth, green finance, green central banking. Now I'll be talking more nationally to look ahead that how what will be the agenda in the coming days. The first thing, governance. The governance is an issue, and I'm sure this is an issue in most countries. The governance is an issue. Corruption is an issue. So I thought governance must be ensured for social justice and pro people growth. So this is an area where not only Bangladesh, every country should really focus on the governance issue and how to make it the funding, the government funding or the private funding, corruption free. So that is an area the government should really keep on mind. Secondly, the bureaucracy and the rules are so stringent, it is not very easy to do business. So I thought ease of doing business must be improved further to remain competitive. If we take 100 days to really give a company, and our competitor gives it in 1 minute, definitely we are in bad shape. So we are really trying to give one stop services in our Bangladesh Investment Development Authority, so that people can open their bank accounts, open their companies in a couple of minutes using digital mechanisms. So our Bangladesh Economic Zone Authority and BIDA, they are really pushing this agenda, and I think we need to go farther. The ease of doing business. That is an agenda. I think this will be the agenda for all the countries. So the more we make things easier, the better for the entrepreneurs and the businesses. Equity is another issue. Another issue. In fact, Bangladesh, like many other countries, is also suffering from inequality of income. And but fortunately, Bangladesh is better off in terms of consumption inequality, thanks to our financial inclusion and a lot of this grassroots level initiatives. The rural people and also the poorer people now have enough food, and they have enough income to survive. The consumption inequality is not that great. Income inequality is still bad because we have many super rich in our country. Those who they take away the money, they don't return the money from the bank. So and they don't pay enough taxes. So these are the areas which, again, if you really want to equity, we got to have more progressive taxation and more in a better governance in the banking sector, so that money does not really end up in a few. The growth process must be green to cope with the climate change and the pandemic that we have already said. This pandemic has shown us that how important is nature. We have done so much harm to the nature. The when you go for lockdown, then you can see how the green nature comes forward. So I thought this pandemic should teach us a lesson that we must all go green in the coming days, and make our development much more and climate friendly, and not always in favor of really fossil fuel and anti nature. So, what are the ways forward? I'm almost at the end of my presentation. So, what we would argue that we must focus on bottom-up approaches, and you must have heard me. The entire process, uh, very fortunately, the central bank went out of the way, out of box, and went for financial inclusion. Went for hugging the bottom of the pyramid through financing the real economy, the agriculture, the SMEs, the industries, and the women, so that we really make it an bottom-up approach. The demand originates on the bottom, and the supplies also we go there. So we have made that approach. I think while going forward, not only for Bangladesh but for the world as a whole, we must remain inclusive in our approach, and really focus more on the bottom up approaches, not always top down, as we normally do. Secondly, the immediate attention should be on the channeling money to those belonging to the informal economy. As you can see, this COVID has really affected the informal economy. I'm sure this happens in your countries as well. Those small shops on the street are all gone. Those small micro entrepreneurs, the women entrepreneurs, many of their outlets are getting closed. Those who are providing services to the different households, they have been stopped. Particularly women have been badly affected because of this COVID. So around this time, I think we got to focus more on how to reach this informal kind of economic agents, particularly the women entrepreneurs and the smaller entrepreneurs, and the digital finance, which we have infrastructure, which we have created, can be very useful. And immediately before the Eid, our Prime Minister sent cash money to 3.6 million of the the disadvantaged people in seconds by utilizing mobile financial services. I think we should use more of those kind of mobile financial services and the digital infrastructure to reach the very poor. In the medium to long term, finance should ensure creation of employment and bolstering domestic demand, and that's what we are doing at the moment. We are really improving our infrastructures. As you all know, we have started mega infrastructures like the Padma Bridge, which will be operated next year. We have this metro rail with the Japanese support, which we have. The Dhaka will be having the metro rail first time. We have the Rupur atomic electricity project. We have underground tunnel project in Kornofuli in Chittagong. We have a Matarbari deep sea port with the Japanese support. About 100 special economic zones led by the Bangabandhu Industrial Park in Miraz Shorai, which will provide about 10 million employment. So I thought these are the kind of activities, and the government has kept those infrastructure development continuing despite COVID, because infrastructures are growth multipliers, infrastructures are employment multipliers. So they are keeping this medium and long term initiative, and I thought this is a smart mode. We got to reorganize our public expenditure priorities and find ways to move the economy selectively, keeping the health challenges. And I'm happy to inform you that the budget, which is coming on the 3rd of June next year, will have the highest allocations for the health sector in Bangladesh, and also money for the social protection, and also for the small entrepreneurs. So I thought this is the right move, and we must reorganize our public expenditure that way. Macroeconomic achievements over the last decade will ensure resilience to a significant extent. In fact, that we have been doing all this, that we have been providing about 5% of our GDP as a stimulus package, could be possible mainly because of the strength of our macroeconomy, our external economy. We are still growing at about 9% in our export. We are growing 39% in our remittances. We are growing about 6+% in our economy. We are our agriculture has become self-sufficient. We don't have to import any food from outside. So all these achievements have given us the strength to go inclusive, to grow green. And the central bank here has become a partner to the government, to the NGOs, and to the entrepreneurs to really provide the money, to provide the guidance, and becoming a part of the development which is green. So I, as a former governor of the central bank, I take great pride in projecting a very innovative central bank. That doesn't mean that our banking sector doesn't have problem. We have a lot of problem of non-performing assets. We have a lot of problem of insider banking. We have a lot of problem on our governance systems. But despite all that, money is reaching to the poor, money is reaching to the small entrepreneurs, and we are all working in partnership, and partnership really matters. I think I have spoken a lot. I'll stop here, Mr. Professor Asud. Thank you so much.
Okay. Alhamdulillah, thank you very much, Prof. Atur Rahman, with a lengthy explanation. And you have explained extensively on how the government of Bangladesh have forecast to address the issue of finance, especially during this pandemic. And a very interesting explanation. So there's a few questions. I read first the questions from Muhammad Taufik. The question: Malaysia introduced a 6-month loan moratorium for helping affected parties during COVID-19. Can you share initiative that?
Yeah, we did more than that. We introduced one year moratorium. It might be extended even. So we did it with 1 year, and this might get extended this year as well, as the COVID is still on.
Okay, so I think this make the people of Bangladesh very happy. Maybe people will be
quite happy, but there will be problem later. But we are not thinking about the later at the moment. Let's survive first. Our motto is survival at the moment.
Okay. The second question comes from Muhammad Akhtar. He says that please provide guidance regarding current pandemic conditions for sustainable development for small and medium enterprises.
Yeah, this what I said. We created initially funds for the SMEs, but the problem is that the implementation is a big problem. SMEs don't have their books are not so well done. They don't have trade license, but these are very informal kind of entrepreneurs. So unless you know them, the banks really hesitate. So despite government giving a lot of incentives, low cost fund, the money, about 30% of the money have not been disbursed yet. So there I thought the partnership model would be the best way. If the microfinance institutes who know these people very well could be partnered with the banks, I think then there will be a better option. I tried this as a governor, and I got 99% recovery of the funds. When we went for the in a partnership for the SMEs, I thought that model is still useful, and I hope the government should take note of that. And also credit guarantee scheme, which we have introduced in Bangladesh, and I thought we should implement it faster.
Okay. Next question is from Associate Professor Dr. S. Salahuddin. Okay. His question is the effects of COVID-19 pandemic is very crucial. So he says that how the Central Bank of Bangladesh play its role in maintaining monetary stability in the country to ensure all level of people are safe.
Yeah, Bangladesh, as I told you, Bangladesh Bank has come out, in a significant way, about 4% of GDP, extra money for the government. Actually, 4.4% total, but of that, about 4% of the GDP only from the central bank, providing refinance, providing reducing CRR, SLR. So they have flooded the market. They have created a liquid system into the market, and then rate of interest has gone down, and also they're providing a lot of refinance facilities and the stimulus package, as I was explaining to them. The central bank is taking the lead role, and also helping the government, because the government is finding it very difficult to raise revenue at the moment. But at the same time, the central bank is also buying dollars from the market, and by doing that, also injecting liquidity into the market, and again improving the reserve. Bangladesh foreign exchange reserve has gone up to about $45 billion, which is more than 9 months of import. And also, and again, inflation has been kept low, about less than 6%. uh, uh, this only tells that Bangladesh Bank is very mindful about the macroeconomic stability.
Okay. And then next question from Associate Professor Dr. Mahiran. She says that some may claim inclusive economy climate I repeat, some may claim inclusive economy eliminate the ability for the wealthy to get capital to innovate. So, how do we take this?
I don't think so, because as of today, the large entrepreneurs are taking most of the money. The smallers are getting still a lesser share. So I'm what I have been trying as a governor, I was only trying to balance the pendulum. These are all going in one direction. So we were trying to put it in the lower directions. And if the smaller economies, inclusive economy works, that creates a lot of demand, and even the larger entrepreneurs benefit from that. Say, for example, even in the rural Bangladesh, even the women in rural Bangladesh, they now go to the parlors, they use shampoos, and these are all the products which are created by the large ones. So there is a linkage between the financial inclusion and also the large entrepreneurs development. So that it's not an exclusive kind of situation. It's all inclusive.
Okay. So, okay, next question from Omar Onyekachi. Malaysian Exim Bank has some challenges in managing the flow, utilizing and distribution of the budgeted fund for SMEs. Please, could you share more of your experience with Bangladesh?
Yeah, this there is a problem, I tell you. But what we have done, the central bank has taken a lead role in terms of really motivating the banks, and also providing the refinance, the credit guarantee scheme, so that the banks don't feel that they cannot flow the money, and they cannot return. Even if they cannot get return, there is a credit guarantee scheme to support. But problem is that the bankers are still urban. So banks really find it very difficult to reach the rural ones, and the SMEs. So I thought my best model would be to go for partnership with the microfinance institution. That will be a thing better. The banks and the microfinance all will be working together and reach them.
Okay, I think we have enough questions, but I would like to ask one final question. Okay, Prof?
Please.
Okay, my question is very easy, very simple, and very general. The issue is about lockdown. So
Yeah.
lockdown is one obstacle in getting the economy to move, especially now. So how do government adjust to this? As lockdown slows down the economy very, very clearly. So how do government prioritize either to get the economy move or to make a lockdown as the most important priority for the government in the pandemic now?
Bangladesh has been using lockdown in a very innovative way. Ours is a very innovative lockdown, I would say. We have from the day one, we have kept the export oriented factories open. Even if there is a lockdown, the RMG factories, the leather factories, these have all been kept open so that workers can work using mask and all that. So we have not stopped the export industries. We have allowed, even during the Eid, we have allowed the shops to remain open, but there was a no transport. We didn't allow the public transport. But then later we opened up. From today, we have opened up the public transport, so people can, so that less people go to the crowded place. So, and again, the mask is a must. The movement for the mask is the number one, despite the lockdown. From today, all the trains, launch, and the buses are open, but they can only take half the passengers. So again, fortunately, I really don't know. Maybe the immunity of the Bangladeshi people are quite good. The rural areas, we hardly see any kind of impact in the rural areas. The rural areas are all open, and a lot of people have gone from the urban to the rural areas. And they are still not been so much affected. We are having a challenge, that is the vaccination challenge. We don't have enough stock of the vaccinations. We relied on the Indians, but they are having a bad time. They can't sell any more vaccine to us, so there we got stuck. We're trying to get it from China and Russia. Maybe we will come, but at the moment we are stuck. But in the meantime, we are balancing. We are going through a balancing act. We are saving the life, but also we are saving the livelihoods. But some of the livelihoods are still in jeopardy. Say, for example, the tourism. Say, for example, the resorts. These are the areas where all are locked down. So we are having problems there, and the government had to go for social protection for those workers. And so this is a very, very innovative way of doing it. Very, very practical way of managing lockdown.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for your explanation, your detailed thoughts, and then I will be very thankful for the word innovative lockdown.
Yeah,
In Malaysia, we haven't listened this word innovative lockdown.
yeah,
This is one good a good idea from you. So, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank you for your keynote speech for today, and we really appreciate your knowledge. And we hope to be seeing you in the future, and we'll invite you for future conferences and seminars. Okay, thank you again,
yeah.
Prof. See you again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I
Assalamualaikum.
pass Muhammad.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, and also I'm happy that I could share the Bangladesh story, which is still unfolding.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
Muhammad Malik, it's up to you.
Jazakallah khan kathira. Thank you, Professor Dr. Atiu Rahman, for his great sharing, especially about the innovative lockdown, together with Associate Professor Dr. Saladin. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the next agenda, please allow me to call upon Dr. Abdurrahim bin Rizwan from the UiTM Jangan Melaka, Malaysia, to moderate the session. Please welcome him.
Thank you
For the
very
best
much.
video presentation session, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Madi. Okay, I think this is the time everyone is waiting for. We would like to announce the 7 best video presentation. And before that, maybe I can give a bit brief of how we evaluate the video. Basically, there are 4 criteria that we have looking for. The first one is based on accuracy. The second one is based on graphic. Okay, the third one is based on delivery, and the fourth one is experience panel to evaluate all the video presentations that we receive for this conference. Therefore, I would like to show you the winners of the 7 best video presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day for everyone. So first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate for the organizers of ACBESS 2021, the organizer UiTM Chaugan Laka, and the co-organizers on successfully organizing the International Virtual Asian Conference on the Business, Economic, and the Social Science. And I'm very glad that our team could share our finding of research and study on the title of the Performance Measurement Framework for Private Tahfiz School in Malaysia, the Regulators and Operators Perspective. Let's me introduce our team members, me as a presenter and the main authors of this paper, Muhammad Yasmin Jaafar, and our team members, Dr. Hamidah Bani, Encik Muhammad Mukhlis bin Abdul Fattah, Encik Anwar Muhammad, and Professor Dr. Abdul Halim bin Muhammad Noor. All right, so this is the outline presentation of our study. The first one, we look at the introduction of the research or the studies, the general overview of Tahfiz, private Tahfiz school in Malaysia. The second one, we look at that what are the problem statements of the PTS in Malaysia with regard the study. And the third one, we look at that what are the research objective of this study. And number 4, as usual, we look at that the research methodology, and that's what are the research finding of this research, and finally, what is the conclusion and what is the policy recommendation based on the finding of this research. All right, so look at that, the overview of this research. First of all, I would like to quote the data from the Symphony Ministry of Education that actually there are 704 private Tahfiz school registered in Malaysia. Right. So based on Symphony, it defined the PTS. PTS stands for private Tahfiz school as a primary and a secondary Tahfiz school, which is governed either by individual, it could be the private organization or the corporate entity. Of course, they are not governed by the Ministry of Education, MOE. Number 2, in terms of the age of the students are between 6 to 20 years old. Number 3, PTS may offer only Tahfiz program, or they could offer both of the Tahfiz and the academic. And the last one, they are the self-funded school. Self-funded school meaning that they did not get the constant or continuous budget from the Ministry of the Education, and sometimes they will cut the one of the financial assistance either from the State Islamic Religious Council or from the government through the budget announcements and so on. Right, if you look at here, the total number of 704, this will indicate that the overwhelming demands, right? The overwhelming demands of Tahfiz educations in Malaysia. This will show the awareness, the increasing of the awareness among the parent to send their students, to send their children on gainings of or learnings of the religious educations. Basically, when we talk about the PTS, it is a place for memorizing of the Al-Quran, and at the same time, they also provide the academic and non-academic with the ultimate objective of producing of the professional huffaz, right? And at the same time, so if you look at nowadays, some of the PTS that have been moved forward and improve their operation by developing a good characters for the students. They also encourage students to build the self-confidence, and these are what we call it as the integrated of the soft skill required to produce the professional huffaz. And some of these PTS are really advanced in terms of the operation because they are free to implement their own curriculum without limiting any boundaries, or they have to follow the specific rule and so on. And some of the PTS, they did not have what we call it as a very strategic directions or the moving in the future. And therefore, sometimes parents may face a dilemma to choose what is the best or the suitable PTS to enroll your students, even though there are many PTS available out there, right? So this is because of the shortage information with regard to PTS performance, and there is no specific, of course, there is no specific ranking or rating available as guided to be referred by parents, because all the information, the study plan, the student performance in many PTS that are considered not publicly available, because they are governed by they are governed and enacted by the state enactment and the jurisprudence. And this enactment did not require for the PTS to make all information publicly available. So therefore, parents face what we call it as a dilemma on sending or enroll their student in the PTS, because there is no specific measurements how to measure the certain performance or the certain performance of this private Tafiz school. Therefore, the objective of this research with regard to the problem statement that we discussed just now, so we want to identify the elements of the performance measurement framework for the private Tafiz school in Malaysia. Since there are the PTS, private Tafiz school, of course, there is no fundamental of the performance measurement framework before, and we try to come up with very simple or the fundamental of this framework. And number two, we want to look at, we want to determine what are the expectation gap between the regulators. Here, regulators refer to the State Islamic Religious Council and the Tafiz operator, the Tafiz school, on the performance measurement, whether they are moving on the same directions on the meanings of this indicator, or they have the different indicators. We want to look at that, what are the gap. So here there are two objectives of this research, right? So we look at on the methodology and conducting of this research, right? This research is considered the qualitative research that we utilize the ACBESS TI, the ACBESS T. So we want to identify on the first objective, what are the indicators of the performance measurement. So the interview have been conducted on 4 different states of the Islamic Religious Council. And we also interviewed on 4 different Tafiz operator from Malacca, Perak, and Selangor. All right. So the structure of the interview, we focus on the management of the operation, the leadership, the board effectiveness, the accountability, staffing remuneration, the stakeholders relationship, and some of the unstructured questions. So based on the finding of this research, so all the full recording of the interview was done, transcribed, and analyzed. And the output of this research from ACBESS T, they could come up with the network that is a framework. The second one is the frequency table, and the third one, the quotations. So here, the research finding from Atlas T. So basically, there are four elements of PTS performance measurement identified. The first one, if you look at that, 5.1 is school infrastructure, focus on school infrastructure. Both of the SIRC and the school operators agree on the first, or the important indicators is actually the school infrastructure. Number two, that is a student achievement on, will be the indicators on evaluating of the PTS performance. The student achievement, including the academic achievements, the non-academic achievement, as well as the recognition from the third party. So the third indicators here, we refer to student evaluation. So how the PTS evaluate the memorization of the students, memorization of Al-Quran here, and then how the evaluations of the core curriculum as well as the supporting system. And number four, they look at on the clustering, right? The clustering here means the engagement in a specific niche area to be dynamic and excellent center of Tahfiz school and institution. And both of the SIRC and the school operators suggested that the PTS should engage with the international Tahfiz school as well as the higher learning institution and other creative industry to come up with one of the niche area that the PTS could involve, right? So this will answering on the first objective to identify the performance measurements for the private Tahfiz school in terms of the framework. And the second one, table 2, will show the frequency of the discussion on the indicators performance between the SIRC and the Tahfiz school. Here, if you look at on the second objective, the expectation gap between the regulators and the Tahfiz school. So if you look at on the Tahfiz school, there were more concerns on the main business of Tahfiz operation, which is focused on student performance and achievement. So if you look at on the student performance and achievement, so the more weightage discussed by the Tahfiz school or the Tahfiz operator, because of what? Because they want to produce a good quality of Hufaz by offering the student the best techniques and the methods of the memorization. But if we look at on the SIRC, the focus shifted on the compliant aspect of the infrastructure. Of course, we know that once the infrastructure is the main indicators focused by SIRC, so it is actually the compliant cost for the Tahfiz school, because they have to acquire, whether acquire the permanent building or they have to construct on their own. Of course, it is a cost. But whatever focus given by both of SIRC and the Tahfiz school, the ultimate objective for SIRC and the Tahfiz school, they are moving on the same direction and aspiration to strengthen the private Tahfiz school at par with the mainstream of the national education. So that is to answer on the second objective, which is identify the performance gap between the regulators and the Tahfiz school. So as a conclusion on this study, so of course, in the absence of the specific and the standardized form of the performance measurement, so this framework suggested for fundamental principle to be used in assessing overall PTS performance. So at the regulators level, as at the SIRC, the State Islamic Religious Council, they could rely on this performance element on detailing quality indicators with a specific unit measurement to quantify the PTS performance. And finally, so this research could, the finding from this research could be require the cooperation and commitment from all the private Tahfiz operator, parents, and NGO and other relevant stakeholders. And finally, the synergy play a vital role to expedite the improvements of the current governance and the practice of PTS, and it will enable the achievement of the National Tahfiz Education Policy, the PTN, that have been set by the government to produce the ultimate goal of 125 hufaz in 2015. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any question and any inquiry, you could email to me on the respective email on the screen. With that, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Distinguished guests, speakers, presenters, participants, and the organizers of the Asian Conference on Business, Economics, and Social Sciences. First of all, I would like to thank for giving me opportunity to present my paper in this prestigious conference. The title of my paper is The Economic Impact by COVID-19 Pandemic in South Asia, Islamic Economical Tool-Based Short and Long-Term Policy Responses for South Asian Muslim countries. And the objective of my paper would be the policy responses based on Islamic framework and tools. Since we have very limited time, it's very difficult for us to explain every item of the paper. Rather, we should focus on some significant items of the paper, which are Islamic tools to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, economic crisis as well. So here we can see there are three categories of Islamic tools. The first one is involuntary category, involuntary tool, which includes zakat, ushur, kharaj, zakat al-fitr, kafara, fidya, mahar, and hadi. The second one is voluntary tool, which includes waqaf, sadaqa, hiba, afun, and fard al-hasana. And the third one is commercial tool, which encompasses Islamic banking and finance products, microcredit and finance, takaful, and Islamic capital market. So now we would propose some policy responses based on discussed Islamic economical tools for South Asian Muslim countries to deal with the economic crisis. First policy would be individual initiative policy that is conceived through self-employment creation. People who are mentally and physically sound, they are bound to hunt their own livelihood based on Quran and Sunnah. And second one is family enterprises. Third one is grabbing any opportunity that people have at their hand currently or instantly. Hayat al-Mutawassita policy, this policy is carried out through by avoiding debt, by avoiding loan overconsumption and luxury. And this Hayat al-Mutawassita also should be focused based on a necessity-based lifestyle. So the second one is societal initiative policy. This initiative policy is conceived through providing support in terms of training and financing to the for the unprivileged people, facilitate opportunity the privileged people who have sufficient land, uncultivated land, and other property. They can give them to the unprivileged people. For example, like they can give their uncultivated land, idle property to the unprivileged people. They can provide old age and food pack donation and suspension meal as well. The third one is cooperational initiative policy. This policy is conceived based on unveiling the resources of the land which have enough resources. I mean, the people who have lack of resources, who have inadequate resources to be employed, in that case, the resourceful country or resourceful area, they can unveil their resource for the unprivileged people. The friend initiative policy, this policy is based on state, society, relative, neighbor, and donors initiatives. For example, there are many unprivileged segments of the people in the society who are orphans, widows, physically and mentally disabled. To rehabilitate them, the state, society, relatives, neighbor, and donors should stand beside them to furnish their necessity and to furnish their real need. However, the following policy would be institutional policy. Under this policy, there can be an emergency crisis response fund can be initiated through zakat and awqaf to found countrywide food banks, cold storage, warehouses for sustainable food security. food transfer, and incentive giving among the affected areas on a short and long-term basis. Public utility charges such as water, electricity, and fuel cost for the public transportation can also be subsidized through this fund. The affected educational institutes can be funded to resume their regular operation, and students also can be financed to escape the burden of tuition fees. Farmers should be granted free fertilizer, seeds, cultivating tractors, agriculture enhancement training, pieces of other light equipments, and other underlying agriculture-based services, for example, research for sustainable agriculture through this fund. On the other hand, to enrich the infrastructures and resources to facilitate one-stop crisis centers to provide immediate medical support for COVID-19 infected, trade zone for various trades, temporary employment information and creation assistance booths, constant innovations to lessen the infection spread, and to share the business idea. Setting up a nationwide precursor shelter booth are worthy to deal with the pandemic crisis through this policy. However, forming a combined Islamic community bank through the Islamic social funds are potential for the classified individuals and institutions that are discriminated by the pandemic, especially in slimming the state financial shortage, debt burden, budget deficit, and installment payment loads, along with creating huge employment creations. The social industry can be founded through zakat and awqaf donation to produce protective gears, which would have a dynamic aptitude to fight against the unemployment disaster. Employees who have lost their jobs in various sectors, such as garment sector in Bangladesh, can be mobilized into the factories that produce ventilators, oxygen cylinders, personal protective equipment, ICU beds, face masks and shields, hand sanitizers and gloves and oximeter, etc. However, temporary public work program can be initiated as well. People who have lost their job, permanent job, may have engaged in temporary food delivery, sanitizing public place, old age, and childcare for the parents and offspring of COVID-19 patients and frontliners, emergency health and protective items dropping off to the doorsteps of affected people, and mobile health services. Private-public partnership fund can be also initiated. Realizing the Musharaka framework, all private and public entities, NGO, charity, and relief organization can be the master sponsors for this fund that will help to set up COVID-19 hospitals and clinic nationwide, emergency health assistance booth, call centers to follow up the quarantine people, vaccine research lab, and the implementation free vaccination program. Islamic banking and finance industry may finance the potential affected large-scale companies that have potential contribution to inclusive growth to secure regular growth and employment flow. However, issuing COVID-19 sukuk through the capital market has possible prosperity to rejuvenate affected private and public entities as well. The microcredit and finance may introduce a comprehensive Qard al-Hasana scheme as the safeguard of small medium enterprises that have severely been devastated by several lockdowns. However, the classified low-income people such as garments, constructions, restaurants, public transport workers, and COVID-19 frontliners who are exposed by the COVID-19 might be granted takaful policies with a nominal price, along with the policy revisions of existing clients covering the COVID-19 treatment. So that was that all were our proposal based on Islamic tools. Hopefully you enjoyed the presentation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hi, I'm Nur Azila from UNICEL. Today, I would love to present to you my paper entitled Unemployment Crisis Among Fresh Graduates. So, this is the normal procedures. This is how my outline for my presentation. I'm going to talk about the background of the study, literature review, methodology, result, and conclusion. Well, do you know that now the unemployed graduates a lot? It jumped from 13.2% to 25% beginning of this year. So this is the data that I got from the ACBESS consultation. Hi, I'm Nur Azila from Unicel. Today, I would love to present to you my paper entitled Unemployment Crisis Among Fresh Graduates. So, this is the normal procedures. This is how my outline for my presentation. I'm going to talk about the background of the study, literature review, methodology, result, and conclusion. Well, do you know that now the unemployed graduates a lot? It jumped from 13.2% to 25% beginning of this year. So this is the data that I got from the ACBESS consultation consultant early January 2021, and the result is all right. This is also I got the data from the website. It says that the breakout of the age of the student, those who are unemployed, below 24, meaning that they are the diploma students. 5 out of 10, almost 50%, and majority of them, the female are only 43%, and in terms of the field, the social science more, and also business and law are more unemployed. Basically, the study or the aim of the study, we want to see the determinants, the influence and factors of the. So we have this literature review. So I just need to pick up one or two here because time is so limited. So these authors are saying that in terms of unemployment crisis, actually, when this is really a really bad problems, because when it is not settled, later on the country will undoubtedly grow, you see, and also the youth, because these are the young ones and are unemployed, they would give a lot of adverse effects to maybe a lot of smoking and alcohol intake. So we move on to the first IV, that is on the, we have chosen on the employer's preference. So we have gotten this other study saying yes, the employers prefer certain things. You see, most of the first three are saying that they like the one that knowledgeable, skillful, of course the good one. But only Harris saying differently, saying that they do like the young one, because the young one normally they are very easy to adapt compared to the old one, right? So the next LR, go to the candidates attributes. So most of the authors that we are saying that they are saying these candidates are quite picky and choosy. You see, because this generation are the millennial generation, so they are born, people say, in the silver spoon, because they are born is already not, life is not so tough, everything is around them, so they are quite picky in terms of choosing the jobs. And next one is the economic instability. So of course nowadays with the globalization, with the automations, with the IoT, so people prefer machine rather than human beings, because once you have that, you can produce mass productions and also less cost. So this is one of the reason why the economic and it becomes unstable, and especially now because of the pandemic COVID-19, things are worse. So this is our framework. We chose 3 IVs, the one that I mentioned earlier, and we designed 3 hypotheses, and this is our GV, the unemployment crisis. Of course, this is a quantitative study, cross-sectional, only once done, and we use 7 Likert scale, and responding by all using the respondent those have graduated from the university not more than 24 months. And then we adapted the questionnaire from the previous study. So we run ACBESS and in descriptive studies, statistics on correlation, as well as the multiple. Right, this is the demography of the respondents. So mostly altogether there are 130 respondents, fresh graduates from all over Malaysia. So we managed to get about almost balance up, male and female, and you could see the below 23 is 33%, and most of them are just graduated, 24, between 24 to 28. And the race represent all of the races in Malaysia. So this is it. So not more than 24 months. IPTA stands for public universities and IPTS is private universities. So we want to see here, both are included. So the field of the study is also multi there. And first of all, we need to make sure that our data is reliable, our items is reliable. So we form 5 items each. Unfortunately, all the items are good or valid because we do not have to delete anything because the chroma alpha are all above point, which is satisfactory. Next, we run on the normality of the test, make sure that the data is normal. So when we took a look of this, we could see that the skewness is still within the range 1 plus minus 2, and then kurtosis is plus minus 7, still within the range. So our data analysis, we just want to make sure the items that we have formulated are really testing on that certain variables. You see, so we do not want to have any multicollinearity issues, meaning that this item could also be found in the next one. So alhamdulillah, it's also, we look at the tolerance when it says that it is 0.1 above, the VIF should be not more than 10. So by looking at the results, alhamdulillah, that analysis here, there's no issue of that. And next, we want to see the correlation. As we formulated the hypothesis, we want to see is there any significant relationship between the IV towards the DV. And you could see here all of the variables saying that, you see we have the double asterisk, meaning that it still goes up to 99% of confidence levels. They are all significance. And you could see here the R, that is the correlation coefficient, they are moderate, all 0.6, and the most is almost points. If you go to 0.7, meaning that is very strong relationship. We move on to the coefficient in the correlation analysis. So we want to know out of this, are they really, did all these items, all these variables are significant towards the DV. So we could see here they are all below, they are less than 0.05, and also here meaning that they are all significant. They are all influencing. So we look at it, next we look at the beta. Beta, you want to see which one is the most influential. So you see the highest beta here is the economic instability, and followed by the employer's reference and also the candidate attribute. You see, all of these variables, it contribute to the adjusted R squared, that is 0.53, meaning that 53% the variances from all these variables contribute to the DV, that is unemployment crisis. And the F is also good because there are a lot more than the required minimum. What is the conclusion? We have very short time here. So we are saying that here all the chosen variables that we have, they are all correlated You see, they are significantly correlated to the unemployment crisis, and they are all having moderate relationships. And you could see the highest one is the has the highest relationship is the candidate attributes, followed by economic instability, and also followed by the employer's preferences. So also when we take a look on the previous study, and now we are looking at the conclusion, which one is the most influential. So we could see economic, apparently, instability contribute the most influential, followed by the employer's preferences, as well as then by the candidate. You see, so what do we recommend? We need to recommend that, because this is economic instability, there's not much that we can do. So we are hoping that the government will have a new policy that see the implication of the unemployment, you see. So try, but in fact, I think they are doing right now, there's a lot of incentive given to the graduates, not necessarily the fresh graduates. And also, you see the academic curriculum from the Ministry of Education should talk about more, because this is what the employers want. They want to have the students, the graduates, to be well versed, to be able to do things, a lot of things which is beyond others, you see. This, in other words, they need to work on their soft skills and hard skills. All right, so I think that's all from me. Thank you for listening. In case you have any question, you may ask me to here. With that, I thank you and have a good day.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. My name is Nurul Ashikin binti Abdul Fatah. Today I'm going to present a paper entitled Role of Wakaf for Elderly Care to Improve Employee Retention Strategies, which is a qualitative study. For the introduction, this research will be discussing the work-life balance aspect in order to decrease the problem of retention among employees. So, what is work-life balance? Work-life balance is an ability in balancing two important aspects in an individual's life, which are between a career and also personal or family life. Based on Chironism in 2011, work-life balance is very challenging and affected individuals' life as an employee and also family member. Hence, it is given less attention by the society and also organization. This is because if the individuals did not manage their work and life carefully, they might neglect any of them and bring negative effect toward their life and also their work. Then, based on Hager and Colfage in 2020, children have hard decision whether to assist their parent with daily personal care or being in the industry. Became a caregiver is not an easy task since it will be resulted in certain costs. For examples like decreasing in working hours, loss of income, reduction in pension, lower chance of future employment, and others. In order to resolve the problem, Wakaf concept might be very helpful. So as we can see in the graph above, it shows that from 2012 to 2018, the funds usage is keep increasing. However, the funds usage are based on the society's need. Therefore, in Malaysia, we are still having problem in Wakaf collection, since it is not widely being practiced. Wakaf is very important to guarantee the well-being of life, especially for elderly. Based on Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan, it has been successfully initiated 8 projects for education and protection institutions. For examples like for elderly, women and orphans. While for the Yayasan Wakaf Malaysia and Johor, they are focusing in 5 areas, including education, economy, healthcare, faith, and also shelter. Basically, there are about 30,000 hectares of Wakaf land in the country, yet only 13% of the land that has been developed. It is based on the Bernama in 2021. So, how exactly Wakaf can help elderly in order to achieve the work-life balance? Move to the literature review. Employees are very important and need to be retained in an organization for a long term. It is based on Cosby in 2016. Okay, this is because the organizations need employees' value in order to run the organization smoothly. Issues of the elderly care need an eye-opener since many problems have been arise. For example, like children neglect their parents due to their working commitments and financial burden. As a result, many of them has been sent to the old folks home for good. It is based on Anwar in 2019. To resolve these problems, former Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Wan Azizah Wan Ismail mentioned that the government plan to conduct a study to develop a sustainable model for elderly care. Next, move to the work-life balance. So as we can see in the table shows that employees demand for better balanced work life. So it shows that more than 50% of the employees in those countries demand to have a work-life balance. While in Malaysia, the labor force rate was at 68.6% in 2019 and increased to 68.9% in January 2020. It shows that half of the nation are working where they need to manage their work commitments along with the life commitment. However, they should not focus only on working but need to divide their time wisely for others. For examples like family time and also self-time. One of 5 Malaysians felt very pressure and have work-life conflict where it led to difficulties in managing work and also family at the same time. It is based on Hamid and Amin in 2014. However, the problem became more serious when the turnover rate is increasing. So as a result, the employees might have lower work satisfactions and also family dissatisfactions. While in terms for the elderly care, basically, Malaysia's population in 2020 is estimated at 32.7 million, which consists of 3.5 million of 60 years old and over citizens. It was increasing from 10.3% in the year of 2019 to 10.7% in 2020. So it shows that our aging population is increasing from year to year. So it might be supported by the development of medical technology and also high birth rate. Employees who are offering caregiving affected in changes in schedule, physical and emotional burden from the caring for the elderly and also low salaries. So the situation presented a problem not only to the children but also for the government and also society in order to resolve the problem of elderly. So as a result, some of the elderly are forced to live in old folks' home, or in the worst case, they are abandoned there for years or forever. In terms of wakaf, what is wakaf? So wakaf means religious endowment or charitable donation accepted by the Islamic law. Wakaf has also been described as one of the solutions to balance human development and also economic system. It is based on Khairi in 2014. Basically, wakaf has many functions that have become evident and have been expanded to other social objectives, such as to support education system, reduce poverty, assisting livestock, for agriculture, for water management, and also horticulture. As a result, wakaf can be one of the solutions to various of social problems. Plus, it is not explored wisely for these elements, which is for the elderly care. Here it comes the research questions. First, why does the elderly care can affect the employees' work-life balance? Second, how exactly wakaf can help to improve employees' retention strategies? Move to the methodology. So for this research, we have done 7 interview sessions, which consist of children who are a caretaker, government statutory body, which is Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan, elderly institutions, which are Darul Ilmi and also Darul Ikhlas. While for the interview methods, we are using telephone call and also physical interviews and visit. Move to the discussions. In terms of wakaf for elderly care, those are the statements from the respondents. However, for this research, we found out that there are initiatives from the government and statutory body. For the government, it has provided various services and infrastructure facilities for elderly, for example, like full and part-time care centers, treatment and health advisory services. While for the statutory body, a total of 22 senior citizen activity centers have been established and run by the NGOs and JKM. In terms of work-life balance, those are the statements from the respondents. From all the interviews, we found out that 3 out of 4 caretakers decide to quit their job and focus on daily care for their parents, while it is vice versa for the other respondent, where she needs to pay one of her villagers to help her in order to taking care of her mother. Next, in terms of problems arise due to the caregiving, 2 of the respondents stated that they have a big difficulty in financial due to the decision to quit their job and only expect the financial aid from their siblings and also husband. The last scenario is for the youngest respondent, where she feels a bit pressure because it is the first time for her to become a caretaker for her mother since she did not have any experiences. And she also needs to cope with the work and also personal matter at the same time. Next, move to the conclusion and also policy recommendations. The first, this research poses important issues that had not been widely discussed before in the context of retention of the employees. Second, the findings of the research indicate that the need to have elderly care center is very crucial to resolve the problems of elderly and indirectly help the employees to work productively without having the problems of work-life balance. The last one, this research expects to give benefit and additional knowledge to the policymaker, the employees, caretaker, and also for other institutions. That's all from me. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. Our presentation topic today is driving factors for adopting working capital investment and financing policy, evidence from trading and service sectors. This is our presentation outline. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Dow and Su pointed out that the survival of the company depends on efficient working capital management. Efficient working capital management leads to greater performance, and Awan and al. concur and perceive that optimal working capital decision is actually the most important factor for maintaining liquidity, survival, solvency, and profitability of business. But yet, despite it being important, research on this area is still scanty. Now, non-optimal working capital can actually relate to inefficiency, high risk for company performance, as well as ultimate bankruptcy. Previous studies have actually looked at the effect of working capital on profitability, while others actually investigated the determinants of working capital using working capital requirement or net working capital as the dependent variable. However, relatively few studies focus specifically on adopting a conservative or aggressive working capital management policy. In addition, the rationale for adopting either conservative or aggressive working capital is still fuzzy. The reasons why the study is carried out is because, number one, efficient working capital management leads to cash optimization. And survey carried out by Pricewaterhouse Corporation in 2019 found that in Malaysia, despite in the improvement of the cash conversion cycle of over 400 companies listed, about RM 110 billions of cash are still being tied up. Now, when the ability to release this tied up cash could help companies boost their capital investment without having to seek additional funding externally, as well as avoiding possible cash flow problem. Ernst & Young, in addition, did a study in 2016 and found out that those non-performing companies are associated with their failure to address major aspects of working capital management policies. Over the years, we realized that the studies focuses on long-term aspects of financing, such as capital structure, dividend, budgeting, and investment, while very few studies have examined working capital management aggressively. Supata Nakotic stated that working capital management also play a crucial role as it could increase companies' liquidity, profitability, and firm value. In addition, Crum stated that several established firms are not able to survive because of lack of liquidity rather than profitability. The other reasons why we also studied is because previous studies focuses on the determinant using a proxy, which is cash conversion cycle, working capital requirement, and net trade credit policy. And using those proxy rather do not specifically show whether the factors affecting the working capital management affect the company's decision to be conservative or aggressive in their decision making. In short, empirical results do not segregate the working capital management into conservative and aggressive investment as well as financing policy, respectively. Hence, we would like to seek a study whereby it examines empirically the driving factors affecting conservative and aggressive working investment and financing policy of trading and services sector in Malaysia, and hope that with this paper we were able to enrich the literature on this area as well as provide a better picture of the underlying reasons for such company to adopt those policy. Our methodologies comprises of, in this case, 134 trading and services company listed in Bursa Malaysia. Trading and services is being selected because they are the key driver to Malaysian economy and contributed about 54% of GDP in 2017 as well as in 2019, 56%. The duration of study is 2001 up to 2017, and 4 dependent variables are being used. They are conservative working capital investment policy, aggressive working capital investment policy, conservative working capital financing policy, and aggressive working capital financing policies. And these are our independent variables that are based upon previous literature. And our statistical techniques are basically descriptive statistic, correlation, LLC, unit root test, likelihood test, Houseman test, as well as the panel regression models. These are the variables as well as the measurement that are referred to from previous studies for the dependent variables, whereas these are the variables and measurement for our independent variables, and they are also being referred to from the previous studies. Now, when we talk about working capital investment policy, as mentioned earlier, it can be divided into conservative and aggressive. When we say it's aggressive, conservative is whereby high degree of investment in current assets, whereas aggressive means minimal degree of investment in current assets. As for the working capital financing policy, once again, you can also divide it into conservative working capital financing policy, which means high degree of long-term debt is used, whereas for aggressive working capital financing policy, minimal degree of long-term debt is used. We come up with a panel regression model after going through the likelihood as well as the Houseman test, and we have 4 models, model A, B, C, and D. From the findings of our study, we found out that on average, the industry means are basically at 0.477 times, whereas for working capital financing policy, it is at 0.284 times. Now, out of the 134 trading and services company, we could see that 52% of the company seems to resort to the use of conservative working capital investment policy, while 49% uses aggressive policies. This implies that a higher level of investment in current assets are being used in most of the company, or most of the trading company. Naidi et al. Pointed out that trading services company is normally uses a sizable amount of cash, inventories, and accounts receivable. For working capital financing policy, we could see more company, that is 60% of the company adopted conservative working capital financing policy relative to the aggressive working capital financing policy. This means that most companies prefer to use more long-term debt rather than short-term debt to finance their investment in current assets. Based on the regression model that we have developed, you could see for model 1A, where the dependent variable is conservative working capital investment policy, all the independent variables seems to be important. And you could see age and free cash flow are positive related, while growth, profitability, leverage, as well as size have negative relationships. In terms of age, it is said that older companies appear to have relative high level of cash or rather current assets, since they have excess retained capital as well as the bargaining power to negotiate with their supplier. And for the free cash flow, since companies have high amount of free cash flow, therefore they are able to afford to invest more in current assets due to excess internal funding. In terms of profitability, all right, a company with high profit chooses to invest in short-term investment assets rather than long-term investment, and usually pursue short-term goals. Naidia et al. 2019 again said that companies with lower sales goal usually put high commitment into current assets instead of fixed assets, while an inverse relationship between leverage and the dependent variable could be explained with the pecking order theory, where firms utilize their internal fund or retained earning before turning into debt as an option to source fund. As in case of size, it can be said that smaller firms seek to have high level of current assets as they are more vulnerable to economic conditions and volatility, as well as have limited financing options. Our findings are similar with the studies of Azim, Marcel, Cheong, and all. Theories supporting the findings for this case are free cash flow hypothesis, pecking order theory, as well as efficiency theory. For the second model, which is 1B, whereby we look at the aggressive working capital investment policy as being the dependent variable, only leverage is the only driving factors to apply average aggressive working capital investment policy, and it is inversely related. This shows that highly geared companies prefer to have lower degree of current assets investment, since using long-term debt to finance its current assets could be costly. In addition, management needs to cautiously manage the working capital as the lender and shareholders are observing the behavior. Hence, this is in line with the agency theories. These are the literatures that somehow supported our findings. As for the working capital financing policy, the conservative working capital financing policies dependent variables appear to be affected by free cash flow, leverage, and size. Both free cash flows and leverage are negatively related to the dependent variable, which means that cash-rich company avoid using more long-term debts to finance its current assets investment. And in the case of leverage, as company are highly leveraged, using internal funding and short-term debt to finance its current assets will be less risky for the company. Size is seen to be positively related and implies that larger company can afford to use long-term debt to finance its current asset, since they usually have a better bargaining power. This is intended with what we call the trade-off theory that pointed out larger firms usually can tolerate a higher debt ratio and therefore can easily pay for investment in capital, working capital. Last but not least, when we use the aggressive working capital financing policy as the dependent variable, which is model 1D, you could see that free cash flow and leverage are statistically and inversely linked to the average working capital financing policy and is significant at 1% level. This means that company with high cash holding will not resort to short-term debts to finance the working capital requirement, but rather use external source of fund like long-term debt. The reasons for this is because they have enough cash to pay for the interest obligation incurred via long-term debt. Furthermore, highly leveraged companies tend to use less short-term liabilities to meet their current assets needs to avoid being in financial distress. All in all, ladies and gentlemen, size has a strong positive relationship with the decision of the company to be aggressive in their financing policies. The decision taken by management to use extensive short-term debt could be due to either company does not have specific debt equity ratio or this company has surplus internal funds. Generally, all the four models indicate positive and statistically significant lagged dependent variable respectively. And what it means is that the company actually have established a targeted, conservative, or aggressive investment and financing policies, and they are constantly pursuing them. In conclusion, these studies examine the driving factors affecting the trading and services sector, adopting conservative, aggressive working capital investment and financing policies. The study differs from the previous study as it separated the dependent variable into conservative, aggressive investment and financing policies. The study facilitated an in-depth understanding of the factors affecting the adoption of different working capital management policies, and we could see that different driving factors affect the respective dependent variables differently. In addition, you could see that the company also seems to practice a targeted, conservative, aggressive investment and financing policy, since the lagged dependent variable are positive and statistically significant. Hence, Our research enriched the existing growing as well as scarce literature on the determinants of working capital investment and financing policies. In addition, it allows managers to have a better understanding of the rationale for using such working capital policies. Theories linking to working capital management are not well established. Interestingly, the relationship found between several independent variables and the respective dependent variable are in fact supporting the pecking order theory, free cash flow hypothesis, as well as agency theory. Hence, this provides a better explanation on how those theories are able to certain extent be useful in explaining the determinant affecting the working capital investment and financing policies. For future research, it is recommended that perhaps other variables like macroeconomy and behavior factor to be included. In addition, researcher can also use private data method to enhance the reliability of the finding, expand those studies to other developing and developing countries for comparison purposes, as well as to examine the factors affecting the types of working capital policies, perhaps in Islamic versus conventional market, and to extend it to other sectors. And last but not least, to consider other dynamic regression model for analysis purpose. With that, thank you so much.
The participant of ACBESS and the ACBESS 2021 Organizing Committee, thank you for allowing me to present my paper at the Asian Conference on Business, Economics and Social Science. My name is Ho Wai Ki. The authors of this paper, Prof. Susila, Vivi, Dr. Shamba, and I would like to share our research findings with the participants in this conference. We hope to get feedback from the participants on our work. The title of our paper is Challenges in Sustainability Reporting, Evidence from Malaysia. Sustainability development was developed in Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries. In 2015, the United Nations General Assembly established the 17 Sustainability Development Goals, SDGs, and all United Nations member states adopted these global goals for sustainable development. UN set these global goals to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. This is known as the 2030 Agenda. In 2015, Malaysia reaffirmed its commitment to support and implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its 17 SDGs. Malaysia integrates the SDGs in the development plan, covering poverty reduction, energy, productivity, healthcare, housing, and education, transportation, and various economic sectors. In aligning the company's sustainable development goal to the national goals, Bursa Malaysia launched the Sustainability Framework in 2015. The framework makes it mandatory for companies listed on the Bursa Malaysia Stock Exchange to make sustainability-related disclosure in the annual report. Since Bursa Malaysia introduced the 2015 framework, Malaysia public listed company start to report sustainability-related data and recorded good progress in the reporting rate in 2020. 99% of the top 100 companies in Malaysia publish sustainability reports. However, a study showed that the sustainability information disclosed in the sustainability report specifically on the perception that ESG-related risks are limited to compliance and reporting. This finding of this study motivates us to explore the challenges in sustainability reporting. The prior study conducted have highlighted some challenges preparers face in preparing sustainability reports. Eccles found that directors fail to exercise their stewardship role on sustainable development in the company. Dominguez revealed that sustainable development was not the priority on the board agenda. Safari and Arif found that the sustainability reports preparers is facing difficulties quantifying the sustainability data, and a comprehensive information system is not available to support sustainable development in the companies. Whelan found that most board sustainability committee of the 100 largest companies in the Fortune 2000 lacks specific sustainability knowledge. This study was conducted in Western countries, and there is limited evidence from the Malaysian setting as to what challenges the Malaysian preparers face. Most of the study in Malaysia were conducted by the Big Four accounting firm. This study aims to identify the challenges the preparer face from Malaysian public listed companies in preparing sustainability reports. This is an exploratory study using a qualitative technique. We collected in-depth data from the directors of the Sustainability Committee, head of the Sustainability Department, and consultant of the Sustainability Reporting who involved in the Sustainability Reporting process, using open-ended questions both in interviews and in the questionnaires. We use Envivor to analyze interview transcripts. Our findings shows that the key challenges in preparing sustainability reporting include: number 1, lack of board leadership; number 2, lack of board expertise; number 3, lack of management expertise; number 4, the negative attitude of the board and management; number 5, difficulty to quantify sustainability impact; and number 6, lack of an effective sustainability information system. Our findings are consistent with the previous study, which indicate that the board engagement in the sustainability initiative is not encouraging. And number 2, the board failed to have a sustainable corporate strategy, and the board and management are struggling to interpret and understand the reporting requirements, gather the relevant data to meet and comply with the external sustainability assurance provider and authority requirements. In addition, the board also failed to engage all employees in the company's sustainability mission and build up their engagement. The board also failed to identify correct metrics as the indicator of sustainability to quantify and measure the sustainability impact of an operating system. And a lot of listed companies do not have a sound sustainability information system connected with information management helps an organization in attaining sustainable development goal. The implication of this study can be viewed from two perspectives, that is, practical perspective and theoretical perspective. From the practical perspective, our findings indicate that although Bursa Malaysia provided guidelines to assist Malaysian listed companies in preparing sustainability report, the challenges still exist. What is of concern is the respondents selected for this study came from the top listed company. If these companies face such challenges, what about the rest of the listed companies? So there needs to be a concerted effort to engage with listed company to address the challenges. From the theoretical perspective, we explore the utilization of the stakeholder selling theory to understand to what extent the challenges faced by internal stakeholders can be relieved by a deeper understanding of the stakeholder selling in reporting external stakeholders' engagement to prepare sustainability reports. In conclusion, Lack of board leadership, lack of board expertise, and lack of management expertise may not drive a fundamental change across the business community. This finding is relevant in consideration of the strategic leadership role by the board members and management of the corporation as the steward of the business under the stewardship theory. The determined leadership in preserving the interests of stakeholders, including the society and environment, will fulfill the profitability agenda and meet the rules, norms, and expectations of the various institutions within its business ecosystem according to the institutional theory. The negative attitude of the board and management team, failure in the identification of correct metrics as the indicator of sustainability to quantify and measure the sustainability impact of an operating system, and lack of an effective information system can jeopardize the sustainability reporting process and fail to produce an impactful sustainability report. The pro-social behavior demonstrates by the board and the management copes with the necessary expertise will drive the corporation commitment to identify and to set up a practical and insightful sustainability metric and sustainability information system within the corporation. The leadership, expertise, right attitude, and valuable metrics supported by reliable and systematic sustainability information will further enhance its business legitimacy, according to the legitimacy theory. To address the challenges faced by the listed companies in Malaysia, we recommend, number one, companies establish a board policy for sustainability reporting. Number two, organize workshops for the board to create awareness and build capacity that helps to align the board on sustainability matter. Number three, develop a creative engagement system to engage employees in sustainability reporting system. Engaging employees indirectly in the sustainability process is a way of entrenching sustainability internally and making it relevant to the entire employee base. The last one is introduce an information technology system in sustainable development to enhance the data collection and sustainability assessment process. This study provides findings from the board members and the preparers of the sustainability report. The challenges that arise from external stakeholders that may impact sustainability reporting are not considered in this study and will be considered in future research. Those challenges include an ineffective training program, external stakeholders engagement, and external stakeholders driven. This is the end of my presentation, and thank you for your time listening to my presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi fellow friends, I'm Nadia from UITM Perak. Today I'm going to present our research papers is about a study on supply chain management of Wakaf real estate and Zakat Fund joint venture. Okay, what you need to know about qualitative investigation. These papers was shared with my supervisors, Dr. Salbiah Mortal, Professor Abdullah Muhammad Noor, and my friends Huraiza Arshad. Okay, in this paper, we are going to present to you the research background, research problem and direction, research aim and objective, research methodology, result analysis, discussion and the main contribution of the research, and the last one is recommendation and overall conclusions of this research. Okay, the research background. The study on the development of Wakaf real estate using Zakat Fund is not a new approach within the state religious councils in Malaysia. Okay, and the main objective of this Wakaf and Zakat joint venture is to meet the various development needs of Asnaf. whereby ASNAF is often associated with those who need financial support and protection due to their challenges from various aspects of life. Okay, what is the research aim and objective of this study? This study looks at the extent to which the joint venture of Wakaf Real Estate and Zakat Fund can help ASNAF continue their lives. Therefore, in this study, supply chain management is used to see how the State Islamic Religious Council's management utilize the resources of Wakaf, real estate and their Zakat Fund to meet the necessities of ASNAF. Okay, how about the research methodology to conduct this research? The motivation for this research is to investigate the supply chain management process of a Wakaf Real Estate and Zakat Fund joint venture to benefit the ASNAF. And we are using single case study is the best option for this research, as it is the aim of the researchers to learn more about the Wakaf and Zakat joint venture process in Pahang State Islamic Religious Councils. It was chosen as a single case study to increase accuracy and focus on how Pahang State Islamic Religious Councils develops its supply chain management, joint venture, Wakaf and Zakat processes. As such, this study emphasized the qualitative method by conducting semi-structured interviews with 3 Pahang State Islamic Religious Council staff members, including Wakaf and Zakat officers, as well as Wakaf and Zakat project managers. Okay, result analysis. The information that has been transcribed needs to be reviewed and explored to create initial quotes of this qualitative study. These initial quotes were developed based on the objective of the study at the beginning of this research. Okay, if you can see in the figure 1, okay, the data analysis process from the initials toward the ends. Okay, this stage 1 is the initial quotes from the 3 participants were created. Okay, this stage we came out with the initial quotes. Stage 2, we identify the quotes and we arrange it into 5 items: projects for ASNAF, Zakat Fund, suitable land, awareness, and high and best use. And the stage 3, it is the final themes that we organize the quotes into final themes. They are strategic planning, strategic funding, strategic location, strategic development, strategic marketing, and also strategic decision. These final themes is the main findings for this, study. Okay. What is this discussion and the main contribution of the research? Okay, the findings of the study of the supply chain management process between Wakaf and Zakat joint venture show 6 crucial points. These crucial points is equal to the final themes of this research. Okay, at a holistic level, the findings of this study on the joint venture of Wakaf and Zakat properties are essential in terms of optimal Zakat funds. Okay, that is the main things that will boost the supply chain management between Wakaf and Zakat, the Zakat funds. Supply chain management, which is the basis of Wakaf and Zakat, is from the main supply chain of Zakat funds and the strategic supply of Wakaf real estate. Okay, and then recommendations and overall conclusions for this study. Okay, what is the main findings of this study? The main elaborations for this study. Trust and confidence are the main factors that will determine the success of the Wakaf and Zakat joint venture. Okay, this is why Wakaf department and Zakat department in state Islamic councils have to cooperate together, have to do a joint venture, okay, in order to develop development project for ASNAF, because Wakaf has land and zakat has fund and also has asnaf. So they have to work together in order to serve asnaf benefits, to serve ummah benefit. Therefore, the required public fund needs to be publicized more aggressively. That's why we have to advocate, we have to give more awareness to the society that the zakat fund is not only to serve asnaf in their needs, but also to do some development buildings for asnaf. Okay, innovation towards the effective management and use of wakaf and zakat resources should be one of the objectives of state Islamic councils. So, in the mission and vision of the state Islamic councils should put the joint venture resources, the cooperation resources, the integration resources, so that they will use the resources effectively. Okay, this is to enable the development of large-scale projects for asnaf to be realized. It can be developed housing, it can be developed training center using these two concepts, these two resources. Okay, number 3, the perception of the community as a provider of public funds. So in this supply chain management, we notice that the provider is from the public because zakat is the public funds, so that public have to be informed what types of projects that is suitable for joint venture between these two items. So every project that use zakat funds need to be announced so that the community knows the need for zakat funds from time to time. Okay, this is based on the asnaf needs, okay, time to time. And the last one is Pahang State Islamic Councils should share the information on the joint venture of wakaf and zakat to all state Islamic councils in Malaysia, because they have a lot of knowledge and experience in wakaf and zakat joint venture projects. Okay, for this study, I suggested that all state councils try to joint venture their resources to get the best development for asnaf. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to Dr. Abdul Rahim for the session. For the winners, congratulations for the success. Mabruk alaikum faqad. Ladies and gentlemen, guests of honor, distinguished participants, with that, that's the end of our ceremony for today. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank all of the participants for joining our ceremony today. See you tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning for the second day of the ACBESS 2021, and stay safe. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you tomorrow, inshallah, at 9 o'clock. Thank you very much. See you then, inshallah. Bye-bye.